The Dragon Ball manga series by Akira Toriyama first released in Japan on December 3, 1984. The Dragon Ball anime series would premiere a year and a half later on February 26, 1986. It ended on April 12, 1989. A mere 2 weeks later, the Dragon Ball Z anime premiered, and the rest is history. Around 1 year or so after the original Dragon Ball premiere, Bandai had acquired all merchandising rights to the series. While it obviously included toys, cards, and collectibles, they also made video games. Several Dragon Ball games were made for the Famicom, NES in Japan, and while there are numerous Dragon Ball games, we're concentrating on the more iconic Dragon Ball Z. Join me today as we look back on the Dragon Ball Z fighting game. Game on a 16-bit system. It featured 10 playable characters: Goku, Piccolo, Vegeta, Gohan, Trunks, Frieza, Android 20, Android 16, Android 18, and Cell. It also featured a very unique fighting game, far different from what we see in Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. Along with their light features, characters slowly gained energy as they showing special key attacks. Even more unique is that both characters were not confined to this main screen. You could freely move apart, causing a quick movement by seeing more distance, or press the button which leads into the air or the head down. The radar located near the top of the screen helps track where everybody is, and as a nice little nod to the series, the androids can operate. Of course, Dragon Ball Z has a long list of iconic attacks and energy blasts, most of which are used greatly to use the soda. Getting enough distance and causing the screen to split allows anyone with enough energy to throw a helpful energy wave, making the voice actor soundbites calling out the name. The target then had an opportunity to defend against the blast with several maneuvers. They could block for half the damage, dodge for a fourth of the damage, or attempt to deflect it, oftentimes sending it right back at the attacker. The story mode begins with Goku's fight with Piccolo in the martial arts tournament at the end of Dragon Ball and goes up until the final showdown with Perfect Cell. Before each fight, you're given the option of who can be able to fight them, and should they lose, they'll be unselectable for the remainder of the story, or until you finish. There's also the standard versus mode and a tournament mode for up to 8 players. For as enjoyable as Super Totally is, it wouldn't quite have the feel of Dragon Ball Z. Everything feels slowly and rapidly hitting the speed of the series is known for. Thankfully, Bandai recognized this as well. Only 9 months later, Bandai released Dragon Ball Z Super Code 2 in Japan in December 1992, and in France and Spain in 1994. This one also features up to 10 players. Supercharged fighting system. The character sprites became much larger and much more detailed. The overall speed increased dramatically. The size of the arenas were much larger, and it added in a number of features. You can now power up wherever you wish instead of just the sky. The split screen and radar features remained, and the signature attacks were graphically overhauled to look much more devastating and to great effect. They also added in something desperately needed from the series: beam struggles. Quickly inputting your own attack command will launch a beam right back at the enemy, and they collide in midair. Whoever can rapidly mash the A button faster succeeds and blasts their enemy. Another new maneuver that nearly every character has is the Meteor attack. Generally difficult to pull off and to connect with, they are flashy, fast-paced melee attacks like you would see in the show. Meteors do a considerable amount of damage, though a quick-fingered defender can press L or R twice to alleviate some of the damage. These attacks, along with the beam struggle, led to moments very reminiscent of what you would see on TV. The versus and tournament modes remain largely unchanged, but the story mode got something of an overhaul. You pick from one of 4 characters and will play as them the whole time. It begins with the Cell games, and then takes on its own plotline with Bojack, Zanya, and something to do with evil clones. As you play through, you're given a number of choices that can slightly alter how the story plays out, or even get you bonuses, such as increased maximum health. It gave slightly more replayability to the story mode. If you play on the harder difficulties and defeat Bojack without continuing, the story mode continues to the final showdown against Broly, and he is accurately portrayed to be as powerful as you think he is. It's also important to note that Super Butoden 2 may be the only Dragon Ball Z game in existence in which Goku is not a readily playable character. He is shown during his one-on-one fight with Cell in the story mode, but that's all computer controlled. He can only be selected by entering in a secret code, making him available in the Versus mode, along with Brawly. Super Butoden 2 was extremely well received, even with its liberties taken on the story. The anime series had just gotten to the start of the Buu Saga, so it would be a little bit before Bandai could get to work on the next sequel.
Getting enough distance and causing the screen to split allowed anyone with enough
Dragon Ball Z Super Butoden 3 was released in Japan in September 1994, and in the European countries a few months later. It featured 9 playable characters, with newcomers Goten, Kid Trunks, Adults Gohan, Majin Buu, Supreme Kai, and Dabura. The battle system is largely unchanged from Super Butoden 2, with a few minor differences. Powering up gets energy much faster now, the arenas are much smaller in comparison, and you can now jump into the sky while directly next to your opponent. Oddly missing is any sort of story mode. Super Butoden 3 only has a versus and a tournament mode. The Medio attacks were also changed to be a little more personal for each character, but not as over the top as they once were. The beam struggles are a little more subdued looking, but just as effective. A secret code can be entered in to play as a hidden 10th character, Future Trunks, who plays largely as he did in Super Butoden 2. Super Butoden 3 wasn't as well received as the second, mainly due to its lack of features. The game was still a financial success, ensuring Bandai could continue making Dragon Ball Z games in the future.
Dragon Ball Z Super Butoden 2 in Japan in December 1993, and in France and Spain in 1994.
In between the releases of Super Butoden 2 and Super Butoden 3, Bandai released Dragon Ball Z Buu Retsuden for the Sega Genesis, or the Mega Drive in Europe. It's a sort of cross between Super Butoden 1 and 2. It had most of the gameplay features of Butoden 2, like powering up, the speed, and the sprites are very similar. It lacked the beam struggles, but it did have a new way of defending against an attack, using quick speed to get out of the way completely. Buu Retsuden is notable for having some playable characters not in the Super Butoden games. Riku, Captain Ginyu, and Krillin. Along with the standard verses and tournament modes, every character has his or own story modes, even if some of them didn't make sense. While it plays pretty closely to Butoden 2, the lack of buttons on the Genesis controller made it a little more cumbersome to play, but as it's the only Dragon Ball Z game available for Sega at the time, it was great.
Though a quick finger defender can press L or R twice to these attacks, along with the beam struggle, led to moments
the final Butoden game was on the Sega Saturn as Dragon Ball Z Shin Butoden, released only in Japan in November 1995. It once again retained a familiar gameplay feel to the Butoden series. The few new features include smashing your opponent into the background and highly detailed sprites resembling the anime art, though these sprites were taken from Ultimate Battle 22. It also introduced a group battle mode, where you can select up to 5 characters and continue fighting until one side falls. It also has the Mr. Satan mode, where you place bets on fights and use items to cheat the odds into your favor. The gameplay once again became a little more floaty, and matches would frequently end in less than 30 seconds, a detriment to the constant loading of the Saturn. Shin Butoden was quickly forgotten, ending the Butoden series.
game in existence in which Goku is not a readily playable character.
The PlayStation also got its first Dragon Ball Z game called Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Battle 22. It first came out in Japan in July 1995, into Europe 1 year later, and the United States would finally see it March 2003. This is where the highly detailed sprites found in Shin Butoden originated, and it had 22 playable characters, 27 with a secret code. I'm going to be frank on this one. Ultimate Battle 22 is god-awful. Everything about the game is awkward and sluggish. Every energy blast uses the same sprites, making a Kamehameha look like a pathetic energy ball. It's a very unfun experience. It did first introduce the build-up battle mode, where you can level up your character and increase your strength, and this idea would be used in later Dragon Ball Z games. But the balancing and build-up battle mode made little to no sense. The only good thing this game has going for it is the sprites, and maybe the anime intro.
Any sort of story mode. Super Butoden 3 only has a versus and a tournament mode. Video attack also
not quite yet done with the Super Nintendo, Bandai released one more fighting game. Dragon Ball Z Hyper Dimension was released in Japan in March 1996, and into Europe the following December. Hyper Dimension has 10 playable characters and a wholly unique fighting engine. Rather than a separate power and life meter, they're one and the same. Life is denoted by numeric value, and using special attacks takes away some of the energy. Powering up slowly fills it back up. It offered a unique system of risk versus reward, as constantly spamming energy attacks will quickly drain you. A background quick dodge was given to each character, and every Super Blast could be charged to deal more damage. It also had connected stages, and players could smash opponents into new areas with certain attacks. A counter system was also implemented, allowing a quick retort after blocking some attacks. The new engine also allowed more juggling opportunities, leading to some devastating combos. Every character also got a Desperation attack, which is only usable when their life is 80 or below. These deal a ridiculous amount of damage, but they are generally difficult to pull off and to connect with. Even though the theme struggles are gone, a new struggle was introduced, Clash. When two physical attacks happen at the same time, the characters go into a flurry of punches and kicks. Whoever button mashes the most and follows up with a key blast stuns their opponent, opening them up for heavy damage. The story mode follows the major fights from Frieza all the way up to Boo. This story mode does not require you to win every battle, as some are near impossible to do so. Getting to the end without continuing does give 3 extra fights, known as Gohan's Trials, in which he faces off against Goku, Gotenks, and Vegito. Hyper Dimension is widely popular for its unique fighting system and for being something completely different from the previous Butoden games. It's also given praise for the detailed sprites on the Super Nintendo, and it was a much better success than Super Butoden 3.
Were taken from Ultimate Battle 22. It also introduced a group battle
Speaking
mode
of
where you
unique
can
fighting
select up to
systems,
5 characters
Bandai made one
fighting
last
into
game
one-side
for the
brawl.
PlayStation and the
It
Sega
also has
Saturn,
the Mr.
simply
Satan
called
mode,
Dragon
where
Ball
you
Z
place
The
bets on
Legends.
fights
It
and
released in
items to the odds in your
1996.
favor.
The battles in this
The
game
gameplay once
primarily
again
took place
became
in
a
the
little
air,
more
and would
floaty,
follow
and
the
magically
story
came
battles
to
up
an
through the
end
Boo
in less than
saga.
30 seconds,
What
a
made this one
detriment to
unique is that
constant
many
loading of
fights would
Saturn.
frequently have
Shin
far more than
Butoden was
just
quickly
2 people
forgotten,
fighting,
ending
and players
with
could
Butoden
freely change between teammates. Characters could work together and use a flurry of punches and kicks to deal damage,
PlayStation
and build
also
the
got
power
its first
balance
Dragon
meter
Ball
at
Z
the
game
bottom
called
in their
Dragon Ball
favor.
Z Ultimate
Once it
Battle
completely
22.
tilted to their side,
It first
a
came out in
cutscene like
Japan in
Power
July
Attack would play out for
1995,
heavy
to
damage.
Europe 1 year
Dragon
later.
Ball Z The
The
Legend proved
United
popular
States
enough
would
for a
finally
greatest
see
hit
it in March
re-release,
2003.
though it was never seen in the
This is
States.
where the highly detailed sprites found in Shin Butoden originated, and it
Many
had
people are
22
familiar with
playable
and love
characters,
Dragon Ball
27
GT
with
Final
secret
Bout.
code.
It came out on the
I'm going to be
PlayStation in
frank on this one.
1997.
Ultimate Battle 22
But it's
was
technically
gone
not a
off.
Dragon Ball Z
Everything
game,
about the
so
game
we
is
won't be
awkward and
covering it.
sluggish. Every energy blast uses the same
A new
sprites,
Dragon Ball Z
making a
game won't be
Kamehameha
made for another
like a
5
pathetic
years.
energy ball.
During this time,
It's a very
Bandai's
unfun
contract on
experience.
exclusive merchandise
It did
rights
first
had
introduce
expired.
the build-up battle
It was also
mode,
around
where
this
you level
time
up
that
your
Dragon
character
Ball
and
Z
increase your
really
strength,
hit its
and this
newfound
idea
mainstream
would be used in
popularity
later
in the
Dragon
United
Ball Z
States.
games.
During that
The balancing
5-year
and
lull,
build-up battle mode
Atari,
made
formerly
little to no
Infogrounds,
sense.
got the rights to
The
Dragon
only
Ball
good thing
Z.
this game has going for
This
it
is
the
also when a
sprites.
new generation of home
maybe
consoles
the
reached the
animated
market. Join us next time as we say goodbye to the 16 and 32-bit fighters, and say hello to Budokai.
Not quite yet done with the Super Nintendo, Bandai released one more fighting game, Dragon Ball Z Hyper Dimension